We can and we should be very proud of the diversity that we have in this great country. Canada's future depends on all Canadians growing together based on our shared values of democracy, freedom, rule of law, human rights, values that I know that the Coalition for Progressive Canadian Muslims organization actively will promote.
I love seeing a guy wearing a big Sikh turban and a big Sikh beard talking about universal values of freedom. To me, that is Canada. It's so important that we make Canadianism about ideas of freedom and equality of men and women. And he was speaking at a founding meeting for a group called the Coalition for Progressive Canadian Muslim Organizations, a group that it is most important reconcile with liberal democracy. And a brave woman who is part of that coalition joins us now. Her name is Salma Siddiqui, and she's in Ottawa. Hey, welcome back to the show, Salma. It's great to see you.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Now, I mean, when I talk about freedom fighting on the show, a lot of the time it's about taxes or regulations. But if I fail, my life is not in jeopardy. No one threatens me with death because I have a different point of view about a tax rate. But what you are doing in your group, talking about the equality of men and women, the rule of law, a liberal democracy, you and other Muslim liberals actually put yourself in physical jeopardy, don't you?
Well, you know, like, again, it's unfortunate that we don't, in today's world, we don't believe in dialogue. The fact that we have to accept what, you know, others' point of view is, who are radicals. Otherwise, we are on the outside and, you know, our view is not accepted. And so, yes, of course, if you deviate from their or their point of view, then yes, that is very sad to say that there are dangers associated with that.
Well, and I'm not trying to hype that up, but I'm just trying to point out that what you're doing, I mean, if it was any other program you were involved with, any other aspect of life, I mean, you win, you lose, whatever. But when you are talking about liberalizing Islam, you're actually sometimes talking about life and death issues. For example, the honor killings that sometimes happen in Canada, or speaking up against radicalism. I think a lot of people in Canada forget that the #1 victims of violent jihadists are not Westerners, are not Christians or Jews even. It's Muslims who take a moderate or liberal approach. Muslims in Africa, Muslims in Turkey, Muslims in Iraq and Iran. It's liberal Muslims that live the most dangerous life in terms of the jihad. Am I right?
You are absolutely right, and I wish many people would understand that more. And you're absolutely right. If you look at you know, the news, 10 Muslims, Sunnis killed Shias, and things like that. So yes, it's basically Muslims killing Muslims, you know, and that's what's making the news. But I must say that there's other good works going around. We are not the only people in the world who's trying to bring this rule of law and equality, and there are many other people who are doing it. But unfortunately, their voices are not as heard, you know, as maybe those who go and do bombing or something like that, then becomes the news, and it's a selling item, you know, so yes.
And that's a great point. Here in Canada, there are many people who claim to speak for all Muslims. Like, I don't think that's even possible. There being about a million Muslims in Canada, no one person speaks for all of them, but the voices that make it onto TV, in the newspapers, are often those who are more jihadist-oriented, more extremist. That's why I love your group. It's finally giving us people who we can go to. I got a question for you also. You're not just a Muslim moderate, you are a woman. And that is a great point of friction between the fundamentalist approach to Islam and the liberal democracy of the West, where, I mean, the Chief Justice of our Supreme Court is a woman. The Premier of half the provinces are women. What does it mean for feminism to talk about how you reconcile women's rights and Islam? Because I think most white feminists are AWOL here. They're quiet because they don't want to be called racist for pointing out that some radical Islam is very, very misogynist.
Well, you know, we are dealing with the political correct culture. And there are naturally a lot of issues, yes, as it comes on your screen. I mean, that's basically that's what people see as a Muslim woman. I mean, a friend of mine recently was approached about, or at least commented, well, I didn't think you were Muslim. Why? Because she didn't have a hijab. So there are so many things that are, we need to bring out. And, you're giving us an opportunity to get our message out that there is more than hijab, niqab, to a Muslim woman. Mm-hmm. I am a businesswoman. Mm-hmm. I go and deal with men shoulder to shoulder. And I've been brought up in a Muslim household. I grew up as a practicing Muslim. I practiced the Islam that was embedded in me when I was born. It is much before 9/11. And I disagree and passionately hate the Islam that is being brought to us today.
And there have been great reformers who have tried to reconcile modernity and Islam. I think of Turkey and Kemal Ataturk, who talked, he in fact gave women the right to vote in Turkey before I think even we did in Canada. He was that much of a modernizer because he knew, how can our country move ahead if half of our population is basically in second-class citizenship?
And like, again, if those kind of things, like what the Muslims have contributed, and they're not dumb people. They have contributed a lot to society. The fact is, today this jihadi and Salafi, they have taken over the Muslim Brotherhood, and they are now the headlines. And we need to mitigate that and put them on the side and fight it. And how do you fight it unless we all get together?
Yeah. Well, I tell you, I'm with you. I mean, I can never be where you are because you are inside Islam, fusing it to our democracy. But I want to be an ally from the outside. You're welcome on this show anytime. And may 2014 be a year of great success for you and all Muslim liberals in Canada. Thanks, Salma.
Likewise as well for you.
Right on. Keep up the fight.